Hello and welcome to my showcase of my custom workflow. So the whole point of this setup is to use the tools that we have with ACES, Film Convert, and Film Print LUTs to combine them as some sort of Frankenstein monster and create something that resembles, in my opinion at least, representation of color timing in a digital environment. So to begin with, I have to explain what color timing is. Color timing was the method of making a film print back in the days of everything being printed. The prints were global adjustments being done using red, green, and blue lights, and the ways that those lights would combine in intensity and in different color skews would determine how the image was balanced during the printing process. Now, offset is the closest that we can get to that, but only offset when it's working in specific log environments. The way that I've got this whole thing set up is kind of like, as I said, a Frankenstein monster. So let's begin with my input. My input is it's red because this is red footage going into Film Convert using the Dragon Color, red block. I mean, it really doesn't matter. Just match it to your camera, of course. I've bumped the saturation up slightly because it was a little too desaturated. I've got it set where the Cineon film print, it's now going out to Cineon, which matches very closely the deconstructed Cineon curve that Blackmagic has using the Resolve Color Space Transform. But what's great about this is it's also very close to the curve that you get on ADX10 density scans. And ACES happens to have an ADX10 setting. Also has an ADX16 setting, but I have yet to find a use for that because I don't work too much with, dense positives. 10 would be for a negative scan or print density on a negative scan, and 16 was going to be for a more dense possibly interpositive scan or low-con print scan or print scan straight from like a theatrical release. I plan at some point to do a whole video about densities of different types of films and film prints and gather some more information so that I can make sure I get my information correct, because I am a newbie. I'm a young guy. Did not come into this stuff in the days of labs and printing. I'm using what I know about digital and working backwards to try to create a hybrid workflow, because there's a lot of looks and there's a lot of the simplicity to color timing that has always appealed to me. The idea of using just global corrections and working in an environment where you're focused more on the broad picture than you are the individual minute controls. So anyway, we're going using ACES from ADX10 into ACES linear. I don't know why you have to do this, but ACES CCT doesn't quite work properly unless you do it this way. So we go then from ACES into ACES CCT. Now, for those of you using DaVinci, I need to back up some. This is a group pre-clip. If you right-click on highlighted things, you can add them into a group, highlighted clips. On my group post-clip, I then go back ACES CCT into ACES back to ADX10, and then here I have a film print LUT that I've downloaded from Juan Milara's website. It is the 2383 that he has, but it is almost completely identical to the one that's built into DaVinci Resolve. So you can use the one that comes with Resolve. This is entirely something that can be done in Resolve, where the only tool that you need as a plugin, third party, is Film Convert. And even then, you don't necessarily have to have Film Convert. You could do this, just as easily by going from Dragon Color to Red Log Film into it, blah, 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 my whole setup there. It's going to have a little bit of a different look. I'm working with Film Convert because I feel that it does an accurate job of, getting a lot of the main color characteristics of each film stock represented within it. Not necessarily whenever you are using it for the print look that it has by default, but more so with the Cineon curve. But once you get this thing set up, you just pop onto any clip here, and you adjust your exposure like so with the offset, and you adjust your color tints like so with the offset. For those of you who would like to and find it preferable, turn on your printer light hotkeys and then use your num key pad to up the exposure with plus and minus. And then 9 and 6 is blue channel, 8 and 5 is green channel, 7 and 4 is red channel, and you have, there's a CYM setup as well, but unfortunately my keypad is not large enough to support CYM. And you can use command and get quarter steps rather than full steps on your printer lights. You can easily see the representation of the quarter steps this way as we go that way, or we do full number steps that way. Personally, I prefer working with the offset wheel. Prefer doing it with an actual trackball and wheel, but from a control panel. And you can still get creative looks. A lot of people will look at this and go, "Oh, this is not grading. This is just corrections." But it's not. It's neither. It's timing. It is not color grading, nor is it color corrections as we know it in the digital environment. You get your looks by changing the parameters of the footage. So, that's not a natural, realistic look. That's me cooking it a little warm so that I can get this. One thing you can do with this that you couldn't do, say, with timing, and this is where I personally like the idea of branching out. And keep in mind, I'm not doing this to be like an exact... It's accurate, in my opinion. Keep in mind, this is my opinion. People who are much smarter than me will probably say, "No, you dummy, it is not accurate at all." But in my opinion, it is accurate. But I like power windows, and so I'm a big fan of like combining the broader strokes of the timing with the offset with using, and this is not something I would actually do. I just don't have a shot that's like too varied. But I'd use a power window and then track it to get some interesting looks, some variance in the image. Well, here's one. This is one. This is a shot where you could up the exposure here and then maybe just pop a gradient on this and come down with the exposure a little bit on this. Maybe make it a bit more blue. Comparatively. Just all kinds of fun stuff you can do. But the other thing that you can do too with it is you have your contrast and offset still that work very well in the ACES environment. Those of you who've worked with ACES, you kind of get the idea behind working with the tools that I'm talking about. Though going out into ADX10 rather than using the built-in ACES setup is probably a bit unique and different for me. But I also believe, in like changing contrasts, offset is literally just, it's just your pivot and your offset are doing the same thing. So if you do, contrast, and then you use pivot or offset underneath, it's still doing the same thing as your pivot. You can use your contrast. You can use log tools. Let's say you want to. I don't think anything is high enough in IRE for that. We can cool off the low end a little bit. And then we can warm up the high end a little bit. Let's bring that high range down. And then here in the middle, let's bump it somewhere like that. And then I'll probably pull this down some. Push this up some. Slightly bring the middle up. I have no idea what kind of a look I'm going for. I'm just turning the knobs till something sticks. You could do something like that, I guess, and get something going with it. That's a look. That's some kind of look. Honestly, I kind of dig it. It's a little bit like a 1960s kind of warmer white point, split tone on the thing kind of thing. Speaking of that, we could actually go back post clip. We could go after our print stock LUT here, and we can go with the color chromatic adaptation and do D55 white point, and suddenly we've got something that more resembles ye olden white points on film prints. And so we go back before our transform out of CCT, and we correct for that new warmer white point. I don't want to overcorrect. And that's a look in itself. It's a lot of like broad strokes, if you will. A fun one too you could do is do a conversion to DCI and then come and post that. Use a color space transform tool and do input color spaces Rec 709, and then do your input color space as DCI, and it'll correct for it. And then you can up your sat or whatever you want to make it work. If you are working in a DCI environment, you can always monitor your DCI that way or convert to DCI that way. So if I were doing P3 for theatrical, since I'm not in a true color managed setup and I'm going out of the print lot, there's two ways to do this. If I'm using the built-in print lots, I could easily just be like, all right, we're gonna do the version of this meant for P3, and then just use that. Or what we can do is we can simulate what our P3 white point is going to be, and then use the color space transform and go from, let's just go straight into true DCI P3 with this. We'll do like that. And that should be our corrected version ready to go. Might be thinking about this wrong. That might be our corrected version ready to go. I'm not entirely sure. I've only ever done work for a P3 projector once, and I've got one that I've yet to figure out how to run signal. I've snagged a P3 projector. It's an old like 2010, 2011 movie theater projector from a shutdown movie theater here in the state. And I have worked with a couple people to put a custom operating system on the thing because it's got its own tower. That's part of it. But I've yet to figure out how to run a signal out of my Mac into that and have it actually display properly yet. If I ever do, this could come in handy. If I ever do, then I've got a proper P3 projector. The other issue is it is big and it's a long throw projector. I don't have room for that thing. I've got it. I just don't know where I'm going to put it, what I'm going to do with it. Might end up selling it. Who knows? Depending on how things go in the future, I may not ever need it or use it, because who knows if theaters are still going to be a thing. I hope they're still a thing, but who freaking knows? I don't. But yeah, back on topic. This is very simple, very easy to use. I think it looks great. I think it's mostly accurate to the conceptual process of timing, not necessarily the different photochemical tricks that you could do or the exact look of the film print. If you want to get technical, the print would be this desaturated, thing that you get here. But I like to use it for a display conversion rather than as a true print simulation, because I don't work with labs. I don't have to worry about it getting actually printed out. And even if I did, I'd still want it to be as saturated as possible without, being an issue, because let's be honest, it looks pretty dang decent, in my opinion, saturated. So, oh yeah, here's the tuba dude that I posted a grade of, or not tuba, it's a water pipe, water. I don't remember the name of that instrument. The Swiss thing that posted a grade of, and it caused a little bit of controversy because people did not like my opinions on things being blown out, which is fine. They don't have to like my opinion, but I have them, and that is that. Yeah, you can use masks too. Get all kinds of looks going with this. I can keyframe it if I wanted to. I like the idea though of the shadows here being like a darker, more ruddy color. So all of the footage that you see here, literally all of it is stock that has been downloaded from one place or another. Everything from here to the first clip of the cat was taken from a website called Iris32. Unfortunately, Iris32 is no longer available. I'm unsure what happened to it, but it was at one point a stock video website where you could obtain the original raw files and use that. And it was great, and now it's gone. I still have a collection that I try to, keep up with from Iris32. I wish I had more things from Iris32 that I had saved, but say love you. And then these last three are taken from Red's website. I believe this is Tokyo. It's a city in Japan. I believe it's Tokyo. This is a helium shot. I do believe so. This is also, I believe, a helium shot. And then this is a dragon sensor shot, which is just, once again, mask. I didn't like the fact that the interior was warmer than the exterior. I cooled it off and desaturated it. Here we go. So it's now like, whoosh, about to rain. Oh, grain settings. So someone's probably going to ask this. Yeah, you can, to me the grain is fine as long as you're in 4K resolution. So I just set my grain, keep it at 100%, and we just roll with it. Because the grain and film convert actually scales with the resolution of the project that you're in. So if I were to use a 1080p project, the grain size is going to be larger and, no longer accurate to what I think it would be for the size that you've gotten. So if I were working a 1080p project, you just cut it in half to, 50%. 4K project, do it at 100%, and you should be good to go. I normally work with Super 35, because, Super 35 is the aspect crop that I am working with on most sensors. Certain music video projects I've, done like Super 16. One music video project I even did an 8mm thing, and I dropped the frame rate down to 15 frames a second. Just fun stuff to play with, but for most things I use Super 35. I've never really done much with Academy, which I assume would be Academy aspect cropping, and then 3perf is going to probably be slightly smaller than Super 35, which is naturally smaller than your full 35mm frame. Once again, I'm a baby who's only done digital stuff, and wow, this has gone on for longer than I thought. I'm just rambling at this point. Let's end this.